right, first things first. What a football match, yo. This match epitomized how good this World Cup was on a whole. And I felt like it's just crazy to see an unbelievable match from Mbappe in this fashion, scoring a hat trick in a final, and you still don't come out on top. Yo, it's crazy how cruel this game is, but turns out the king does in fact get his crown. Incredible. Just incredible. Like history, we witness history today. Straight up. Break it down.
Yeah, to be honest, I have to say until the 35th minute of the second half, I was gonna turn off the game. I gave France no chance. With the way the game was going, right? Mbappe, not only Mbappe, but the whole French team was was just shelled by Argentina. But then really a penalty out of nowhere, right? For a player with Otamendi's experience, should I say quality? I don't know if he's still has that quality anymore, but especially his experience. I'm just going to focus on his experience. He should not be doing that. I know he's a lot faster than you, but there's just no need to put in that reckless challenge in your penalty box when you're leading by 2 goals. And maybe we should have seen this coming, right? Every single knockout game that they've played, they've went two up, with the exception of the Croatia game. They went two up and they always conceded. And even against Australia, they almost went to the extra time, if not for Emi Martinez' great save, which he pulled out another one in the dying minutes of the extra time again. But in comes Mbappe. Emi Martinez got his hands on it, but just too strong. And we saw with Harry Kane, right? The pressure, even to a player of Harry Kane's stature, his quality, his experience, the years and the goals that he scored in this game, it got to him. And Mbappe stepped up again in extra time. And he went the same direction, just like Harry Kane did. But this time he buries it, unlike Harry Kane. At that point, I thought, wow, this has to be it for France because every single goal that they've scored came when it looked like they were out and out, or I should say down and out. But wow, Emi Martinez. I mean, this is what we mentioned, right? Theo, who's not here today, I want to give him a special shout out because it's only been achieved twice prior to today, where the World Cup final has gone to a penalty shootout, and he called it from. I wouldn't say day one because he really wanted Brazil to win, right? So I don't think he would have seen this coming from before the tournament. But when we
But to be fair, he did message me and say, I'm telling you, Argentina is taking it on pen. So again,
right,
man got
yeah,
it right.
yeah. I mean, he said the exact same scenario, 1-1 or 2-2 in our preview episode, and goes on to the penalties. And Hugo Lloris, I saw this stat from the 16 goalkeepers, or I should say the teams or the nations that progressed to the round of 16. He was the worst penalty saver, stats wise, statistically, meaning he saved the least amount of penalties or the least percentage of penalties that he faced. And it really showed. Right. You can say all about, oh, Chouameni should never have taken it. He's only 21. That was his first penalty. But I don't know what it is about him. Maybe it's his reputation, it's his behavior in the box. It just intimidates the attackers. And even Mbappe's first penalty, he got his hands on it again. But Mbappe's penalty was just too strong. But overall, Argentina deserved this. Maybe they weren't the best team throughout the tournament, but you don't have to be to win the World Cup.
And they were definitely the best team today. I mean, they played and dominated France the whole match. And you really wouldn't expect it because their midfield is really not really known for being that technical. The Paul in there. I mean, McAllister has come in and really shine still, but I just can't get over like the picture of Messi. He's done it. He's completed football.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel surreal, right? Because we go back 8 years and we really thought that was it for him, and he didn't get it. And 4 years later, his team, or were just shambles, right? It was terrible. They got knocked out by France 4-3. And then this year, he comes back and puts in that performance. But talking about McAllister, World Cup winner from Brighton. I mean, what? I did not have this in my bingo card for 2022. Juan Foyth, who hasn't played, I don't think he played a single game. Geronimo Rulli, who didn't play a single game from Villarreal. Emi Martinez from Aston Villa, right?
Played a big role as well.
Yeah, yeah, he did. He certainly did. Two penalty shootouts. He saved two, right, in each. I know today was a miss, but I want to touch on Di Maria today. Di Maria, there were talks about him possibly getting the start, right, even though he wasn't fully fit. And he showed us why the manager had faith in him to start him in probably the biggest game of his managerial career. Now, he was on the left-hand side, contrary to our or most people's expectations that he would be on the Argentinian right-hand side. But boy, did it pay off.
Yeah, I mean he was ripping Kunde to shreds the whole match, and of course got rewarded for it with the goal. A great goal, great finish, calm, composed, experience, just held this was just cool. So yeah, big up Di Maria still. But I want to ask you about the French substitutions early on. You thought that was right?
I thought Dembele was right. I didn't think Giroud was right though. With the way that he's been performing, right? He can be that focal point for the French team to when they want to boot up the ball, right, up the field. He could be that field, or I should say he could be that figure upfield. And he's contributed with some goals, unlike 4 years ago. So I didn't agree with it at that time. But I mean, the guys that came in, I think was it Colomwani who got the penalty and Thuram who assisted Mbappe for the second goal, the equalizer. I mean, a bold call, you have to say. Only 40 minutes in. I mean, how often do we see that, right? We rarely see halftime substitutions, let alone in the first half, 40th minute. But big call by the manager. Didn't look like it was going to pay off until the last 15 minutes of the game, but it did. And remember, Colomwani had a golden chance in the dying minutes of the extra time, second half of extra time. I think had he been a little more composed, it, I mean, Emi Martinez comes out, closes the angle, makes himself big, right? But I felt that the right finish was to go towards Emi Martinez's right side because there's just not enough space to get to the near post whereas it could be attacked the left hand side of the post. So I mean, maybe this is hindsight. I mean, I'm obviously never going to be in that situation, but if anybody were to be in that situation, I think, as a young player, your vision is just like this, right? You're just only looking at the goal. You're just looking at the ball. You don't really see where the keeper is or where it's coming out. If that falls to Giroud, maybe it's a different story. But would Giroud even be in that position, right? So it's all hindsight, but that substitution, I wouldn't say it didn't work out. I don't know if I would say it worked out.
Yeah, obviously the result of the game it is difficult to tell. But still felt like France had to do something to get back into the game, and he made a early decisive move to do it. So I kind of respect that, and it worked out because, as we said, the game could have gone either direction. So had they gone and won the match, won the penalty shootout, we'd be sitting here saying, "Yo, that was a brilliant move by him to get back in the game." 2-0 down in a World Cup final. To come back from that, that's that's brilliant. I mean, it's just so insane to see Mbappe bring home a match ball from the World Cup final and you still lose. Like you're leaving that game sad. Like imagine that how what he must be feeling right now.
Yeah, becomes the first player since 1966 when England won it all. to score a hat trick in the final. It was the record was only previously held by Jeff Hurst, Sir Jeff Hurst, I guess. But his team went on to win the World Cup that night, but Mbappe didn't. But you have to say, Mbappe, he showed why people look at him and talk about him as the next big deal. Right? The cool composure to step up and slot away two penalties, and that volley for the equalizer at 2-2. I mean, that's sublime. You can put hundreds of strikers in that position, and at that stage, World Cup final, the time is dwindling down. A lot of strikers would mess that up, and it might look, he made it look easy, right? And for people who are watching, it might look easy, but you and I know. I mean, you and I and a lot of people know it's not an easy finish. And I don't want to say he can keep his head up high because his team ultimately lost. But I mean, this guy, he's he's the real deal.
One hell of a future for this guy, you know. But who, if you had to pick one, who was your, who would you say was the most deserving team in the World Cup?
You want
Like
me to
to win
see?
it all. No, I
You
don't
want
want you to
me?
say anything. I just want to hear you. I just want to hear your opinion.
I mean,
I'll be honest though.
you could phrase the word and you could define the word deserving in many different ways. Would you say that Argentina were the best team overall in terms of their squad? No, right? A lot of the stats, individual stats, were just pretty much dominated by Messi, right? Whereas France, they might not have played the best football, but they were just clinical and they had probably the strongest attacking force in this tournament. I'll not touch on England. England, I guess you could say the most balanced team, right? They throughout all their games, right, with the exception of the first game against Iran, and maybe you could even chalk that up because they were up by so many goals. You wouldn't necessarily say that England were under too much pressure and under too many dangerous situations where you feel like they should have or they could have conceded. So, and not to mention going forward, that front three was really settled, especially Saka and Kane, and also to mention Bellingham in the middle. They're all great, but I'll just go with Argentina. It's just I think they've won every single game based on XG. I know XG is not the best stat, but XG is the best thing we have to tell whether a team played better than the opposition or not in the current circumstances. So I think overall Argentina did deserve this, and unless you're from Portugal or unless you're a Ronaldo stan, I,
Or
I
you're a Brazilian like Theo.
or you're Brazilian, yes. I don't think there's that many people who would be looking at Messi lift that trophy and feel, well, some people might say it was rigged. He did have a lot of penalties, and I won't deny that. And some were shaky. But today's penalty was, I mean, that's just a Stonewall penalty. I don't even know why there's even a debate for today's one. But yeah, I think overall the general consensus would be that Messi and Argentina were or are going to be recognized and remembered as the deserved winners for this World Cup.
Yeah, I mean that's it really though anyway. Not really more to say. The man has completed football.
Yeah, that he really has. And I think it would have been a real shame had he bowed out from football without arguably the biggest trophy in world football, which is the World Cup. And this puts him firmly above Maradona, right? I know there was people debating whether Maradona was better than Messi. And maybe people still might think that Maradona was better because he did move to Napoli and take that team to the Serie A title. But I'm not in a position to say because I've never watched him play, But for me, I think this pretty much helps cement Messi his case. I'm not saying this is done, right? But I think it will be very hard to argue against the argument that Messi is possibly the greatest footballer to ever have played so far.
Yeah, definitely cemented over Ronaldo at this point, especially with the way Ronaldo is bowing out. Just even more tarnished legacy at that point. Just all the attention, all the good energy is just gone towards Messi now at this point.
Yeah. And I don't want to touch too much on Ronaldo right now, but this phrase, I think it just rings truth so much. You either you either retire a hero. I know it's not the retire, but because we're talking about football, you either retire a hero, but you or also you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. And that phrase pretty much sums up Ronaldo's situation right now. Yeah. But you guys let us know what you thought of this World Cup. I thought this was one of the best World Cups in recent years. I know certainly the best final that I've ever watched live. And I'm sure you're in agreement with that as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. You guys let us know if you guys agree with us with this bold. Is this even bold with this statement that this final was possibly the best ever? Or if you guys don't think this was one of the greatest World Cups that we've watched in recent history. I certainly think so. I know you think so as well. And just like that, the World Cup is over and we're back to the Premier League, where Arsenal hopefully will slip up from the first position. But we are going to be reviewing the first half of the season while also previewing the second half of the season, which gets rolling after Christmas. So make sure you join us for that. And that will be it for today's episode.